think it is definitely something to cheer us up. So welcome again to our stress management and emotional well-being workshop series. We will begin the recording now for those that are recording. And I want to, again, introduce myself. My name is Lorena Valencia. I'm the School Mental Health Coordinator in Local District East. And it is a true pleasure to welcome you to our stress management and emotional well-being workshop series. Again, thank you for joining us. We know you could have been anywhere today and you chose to be here with us. And I also want to remind you that the recording is available for those that can't join us. I know this can be a challenging time for some of our families, and we will be mindful of that for future trainings. So today we have our second workshop out of 4. We will be sharing this space with you for 2 more weeks until November 16th. And we're very excited to have you all here. The name of today's workshop is When Life Gives You Lemons, Make Lemonade. Every experience is a lesson learned. We will wait a few minutes as those that are continuing to join us before we start. But in the meantime, please select the language of preference by clicking in the interpretation globe at the menu bottom of your screen. You'll see a little globe and you can select a language there. So it's important that you select a language preference so you can listen to this in the language that you prefer. We also have available Spanish and Armenian translation. Este taller para padres estará disponible en español. Para seleccionar en español, haga clic en la parte de abajo en donde está un mundo y seleccione el idioma español. In the chat, you will see instructions on how to select the preference in Armenian language. Thank you to our wonderful Armenian translator that is helping us post that. We have 2 wonderful American Sign Language interpreters to assist us this afternoon. This video is spotlighted on the screen for your convenience, so thank you to our translators. De nuevo, van a ver en el mensaje cómo oprimir para el español. Gracias. Just a reminder for us this afternoon, we want to create a safe online experience for all of us. This is a new way of learning and interacting, and we continue to adjust to this new way. All of us here want to make this workshop accessible to all. So to help guide today's workshop, I'm going to remind you again about the language considerations. Select the language preference by clicking the globe icon at the bottom of the screen. Our language preferences are English, Spanish, and Armenian. Again, for Armenian, please select French as Zoom only gives us that option. Este taller está disponible en español. Para seleccionar el idioma en español, seleccione el idioma español abajo donde ve un mundo. Again, our interpretation team is posting that on the chat. Also for the American Sign Language interpretation, they will be spotlighted on your screen. This is a webinar, so we can't hear you and we can't see you. So please know that you're muted and your camera is off. Opportunities for participation are through the chat feature so that this workshop can be very interactive. We do want to hear from you and it'll be through the chat. Again, a reminder, this is a safe space focused on the topics discussed this afternoon that are related to parenting. And again, we want you to receive this space as a safe and in a non-judgmental manner. We want this to be a safe space for all. If there are questions, please post your questions on the chat as other parents may have the same question. The team will do their best to answer all your questions, but if we see questions that might come up, again, we will respond to them publicly so that others can benefit from that. And if we have time, we'll also answer questions at the end. Again, a reminder that this workshop is being recorded. It will be made available and to be able to access through our either our Student Health and Human Services page or also through our YouTube channel. So again, with that, I want to thank you for being here again. And I want to introduce you to our wonderful presenters this afternoon. Our first presenter, Norma Ramirez, she is the mother of an active 11-year-old. She's a social worker with over 15 years of experience. She's an avid hiker and backpacker and very passionate about developing and facilitating programs that support parents and other significant caregivers in the life of our students. Next, we have Rocio Graciano Limon, is a mother of an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old. She's worked with the district for 18 years. She enjoys gardening, exercising, and spending time with her family, enjoying the outdoors. She believes that with proper supports, all children will thrive. Our next presenter is Hector Ibarra. He's a psychiatric social worker with the Los Angeles Unified School District for over 15 years. He is passionate about supporting parents and students, particularly those that are immigrants. To relax, he enjoys listening to podcasts, watching the Dodgers, and spending time with his lovely wife and beautiful children, 3 children. So with that, again, I want to just a disclaimer for all of us. This presentation is for informational purposes only and should not be considered medical advice. So with that, welcome us. And I want to pass the baton over to our presenter, Norma Ramirez. Take it away.
Thank you, Lorena. Thank you. Damien, can you please go to the next slide? Thank you. So we have the webinar tools there that Lorena mentioned. Again, we want to remind everyone that this is a safe space, and please feel safe to be able to share in the chat in a non-judgmental way. We want to create this safe space for everyone to be able to share. Next, please. And these are our wonderful presenters. I am Norma, thank you and welcome. And then Rocio and then Hector will be co-presenting today. Next slide. So welcome to our second parent workshop, When Life Gives You Lemons, Make Lemonade. If you joined us last week, we thank you for being with us once again this afternoon. This is a new way of learning, and we are learning together. It's pretty hard sometimes to catch up with technology, right? There's a lot of changes. Online learning, it's still new for us. It's still new. We're learning every day. So I want to commend all of you for learning a new skill and exploring a new way of learning. If you're joining us for the first time this afternoon, a big welcome to you. Last week, we shared with each other how taking care of our families is one of the most important and challenging jobs in the best of times. And given the changing and uncertain times we're experiencing now, taking care of ourselves and our families has been even more difficult. So last week was our first workshop, and this experience was overwhelmingly exciting and humbling to see how in our time together, we were able to come together, build community, uplift our spirit, support each other, as some of you were having difficulty with accessing the interpretation feature. We appreciate that, and we see how you're helping each other. If you just joined us just now, again, welcome. And if you need this workshop in Spanish or Armenian, please select the language of your preference in the globe icon at the bottom that says interpretation on the menu bar. So for Spanish interpretation, please select Spanish. And for Armenian, since it's not listed as Armenian, please select French to listen to this parent workshop in Armenian. We appreciate that. Si acaba de unirse a nosotros, bienvenido. Y si necesita este taller en español, seleccione el idioma de su preferencia en el botón de abajo en el globo en la parte inferior que dice interpretación en la barra de menú. So I want to share a highlight from last week. The common theme that we heard from you was that I'm not alone, right? We've read all your feedback in that parent survey Another thing that we heard from you is that we have each other. Another thing that we heard is that it's okay to ask for help. And that is right. We are in this together. And there is so many of us that shared in the chat, so many experiences that we have in common. And I want to thank you for that. As we begin, I encourage you to make yourself comfortable. Grab your water, your cafecito, your tea, your shawl. I have my shawl because this brings me comfort. It's like if I'm giving myself a self-hug. Your tea or water, whatever that may be, that will help you enjoy this workshop. So welcome, and know that by being here, you're taking care of yourself and your family.
So we're going to talk right now about the objectives. If we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. So what are we going to learn about today? So there's a few things that we want you to leave with. So the first one, we want you to learn skills to manage our stress. Because by doing that, it's going to benefit our bodies, our behaviors, and our feelings. We also want to define the term toxic stress, what it is and how the body keeps the score. That's an important concept we're going to learn about. And finally, we're going to also learn how to promote ways to improve our emotional well-being during seasons of high stress, including right now, right? During the pandemic, a lot of us are going through a lot of stress, so we want to talk about how we can promote ways to improve our emotional well-being. We can go on to the next slide because we want to do a reflection activity before we get started. So this is just something to ground ourselves by focusing on what the meaning of this popular saying is. You're seeing it there. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So think about that term. You probably heard it, is very common. Maybe you haven't, but what do you think it means? When life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So take a moment to reflect on this popular saying and think about its meaning. What does it mean to you? And when you're ready, you can share it in the chat. You can type it in the chat and we'll be able to read some of your responses. So make the best of life, says one of our family members.
Not sour, but sweet.
We'll be able to see the positive in all situations. Regardless of go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah. Regardless of the hand that you're dealt, make the best of it.
Do the best of your situation.
See the positive and make the best of the situation. Always make the best.
Tomar las cosas positivas, take things positively.
Do the best you can with what you've been given.
Learn to adapt to situations. Sacar lo mejor de todo.
After hardship comes ease.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So many good ones here. We will be faced by obstacles and it's important to overcome them.
This too shall pass. Yeah,
Yeah.
I got my attention too. Yeah, wonderful. So we're seeing a lot of great answers and very similar in your responses.
Make the best of it. There was one that says, look at the glass, but I didn't catch it. It was moving very fast.
Vivir con amor y entusiasmo cada día con lo que la vida nos depara. It's nice.
Look at the glass as half full as opposed to half empty.
Yes.
That's a beautiful one too.
Really.
Get up and keep pushing.
Yeah, when you get knocked down, come back better.
Okay, that's wonderful. So we want to just kind of, based on what you're sharing, we can see some things in common that you all are answering. So some of the themes that we heard, you know, when we experience difficult situations, even ones that are unexpected, it's up to us how we react. Just like we said last week, if you were here last week, many times we don't have control what happens to us. But we do have control over how we decide to handle it. And I got that sense from some of the answers. Something else to it, that it's up to us to decide how we use our resources, our lemons, right? We get these resources, these lemons, how do we use them? Like maybe reaching out to a friend for help, maybe reframing our way of thinking to think more positive or more neutral. So these are all helpful in handling stressful and difficult situations. And then another third point that a lot of you gave here is that, life, you're going to have some curveballs, right? Things that you're not expecting. There's no doubt about that. But what will make a difference is our outlook, how we look at that situation. So being optimistic, positive, resourceful, being kind to ourselves by acknowledging how that experience is making us feel and the impact it has on us, that's going to make a big difference in our outlook. So there's nothing wrong to sit down with our emotions, experience them, give them the space that they need so that then these emotions can move on from us. Definitely living in it. Any other comments that anyone want to share?
I saw canta y no llores. God is in control. God is always in control.
Disfrutar lo mejor de todo, enfocarse en lo bueno y no en lo malo. Thank you.
So we're gonna move on to the next part, the next slide here. Thank you. And so we talked about these lemons. Let's talk more about that. Let's learn more about the lemons that life throws at us, right? We just talked about that saying, but what does that mean? So like we also said last week, we're our best when we're calm. So whatever roles we play in life, whether you're a mom, a dad, a grandparent, a partner to someone, a friend, comadre, compadre, maybe an employee at a job, we need to be calm to think clearly and make the best decisions. But when life throws lemons at us, one after the other, they're very hurtful and strong in their impact, and that could lead to toxic stress. That's what we're talking about today a lot, toxic stress. So toxic stress occurs when we experience stressful situations that are so overwhelming and frightening. Maybe they've been going on for a long time too. It's like getting 20 big lemons thrown at you at once. So just like that word toxic, right? It sticks to your body. It's very hard to get rid of that stress that you got on yourself. And so when this happens, it may affect the way that you interact with other people. It also, your body may feel tension and pain, so it affects your body. And we may no longer feel like ourselves. So many of us in the world right now are collectively experiencing toxic stressors that have resulted from this pandemic. So if you remember, even when the pandemic just started, how it was for all of us, how stressful it was. So if you remember back then, how we all dealt with having to stay home, our children having to stay home, having to face challenges and stress from having everyone at home at the same time. Maybe you're trying to work, or maybe you just lost your job because of the pandemic. Maybe just being at home and having to cook so many times a day, thousands of times a day, just trying to make it happen for your family. And in addition, for many of you, you may be experiencing a grief anniversary. Maybe you're remembering a loved one that is no longer with us during the pandemic. So, even though we're not experiencing the same limitations as we did at the beginning of the pandemic, we are still living in it, right? It's still a pandemic technically. So it's important that we be gentle with ourselves if we're feeling this toxic stress, and really acknowledge that everyone's going through that. Many of us are. And here to talk more about that is going to be Rocio.
Okay, thank you, Hector. So one of the things that we really want to point out and highlight for you regarding these stressful situations, life throwing lemons at us, are that they're not traumatic in and of itself. So events alone are not what they're not traumatic in and of themselves. They become toxic and stressful depending on the meaning that we give it and the support that we have to help us respond to those situations, to manage those situations and help us feel calm and in control. So I really want you to sit with that for a minute, because two people can experience the same situation. They can be thrown the same lemons, but whatever meaning those people give those situations, right? And also their ability to cope and manage, it's what will ultimately result in that situation becoming toxic stress, or in some cases traumatic. So this is where taking care of ourselves becomes pivotal, becomes very important, because by taking care of yourself, we are then building the buffer to be able to have those situations, those lemons in a way, bounce back, right? So instead of them hitting us and really creating a dent on us, we're putting on our shield, our protective shield, by taking care of ourselves, and then those lemons will bounce back. So by taking care of yourself, this is where we get to that ideal zone. If we go back to that temperature that we spoke about in our first session last week, in that green zone where we talked about how we feel at calm, we feel at ease, we feel empowered, we feel in control, and we just feel good, right? And so the self-care helps us to be able to get there and stay there, right? And by checking in with our loved ones as well, what we may consider our village, our group, our support system. Some people may refer to this in Spanish as your tribu, right? Your neighbors, right? Your community, all that social network that really helps add on to your shield, right? To protect yourself. And it also calling our hotline, our resources, our community resources, our parishes, our extracurricular activities, our senior centers, all those places really build a village of support for us so we can continue to manage those lemons. This is also what we refer to as protective factors. And this is something that we're constantly talking to our staff in LAUSD about, and our students, about the importance of building internal protective factors and also those external protective factors, right? The internal protective factors, again, may have a lot to do with your day-to-day self-care practices that you're engaging in. And then those external protective factors of what we just reviewed: the community, your family, your friends, your neighbors. So just to narrow the focus down a little bit more, these are your relationships, your activities, your experiences, all these events, right, that ultimately add up. And what ends up happening, they end up adding to our resilience. And our resilience is our ability to bounce back from adversity, right? So let's take a moment in the chat so we can consider how we talk about or communicate about stress in our family or in your culture. So I want you to think about this, okay? Think about, how do I communicate when I'm feeling stressful? And this may be the first time that someone has asked you this question. So it may take a little bit of time for you to really identify that. So in our family, how do we communicate about stress? So for example, maybe you have heard someone talk about having drama. Tell us about that. What does that mean? In some families, we hear about el susto, right? Or having a frightening experience. Or está empachado, having gastrointestinal pain or discomfort after a stressful or scary situation. Tell us about that. Is that how you refer to stress in your family? I have also heard some families share how very frightening situation was connected to their physical pain or chronic conditions, such as if they suffer from diabetes, or when they share about their experience living with that condition. They also share about the stressful event that is associated with its onset. So some families feel that some extraordinary situation or scary situation was the culprit, right? Or the antecedent to their anxiety or to their trauma or to their stressful response to that. So let's take a couple of minutes on the chat and share with us, how is stress communicated in your families or your culture? What do we see, guys?
So somebody said a very interesting point. It's very hard to discuss being stressed because it's a sign of weakness. A lot of people feel that you hold it in and you become sick yourself until you talk with an outside support person. Yeah, you got to be strong, right? That's a lot in our cultures. You got to stand up and not admit that you are anxious or you need help.
Such a valid point. And we see it so much across families, especially with a lot of the messages we convey to a lot of our young children, right? Our male children, you know, so as well. Stress is communicated through shutting down. Yes, a lot of times being avoidant, not wanting to talk about it, not wanting to engage, right?
Also through crying.
Right.
There's also someone who said that they talk about it over dinner.
Mm-hmm.
There's someone who says that they usually don't talk when they're stressed.
Mm-hmm.
So some of us maybe didn't grow up with that communication, but you're trying to break those chains. I saw somebody also put that there, communicating with their children so that they feel comfortable in sharing everything with them. Sometimes we didn't grow up with that, so it's a little hard. So that's another
Yes.
good point.
Absolutely.
Someone's also shared that, you know, when they're stressed, there's raised voices, sharp tones, harsh language. It's how they express themselves when they're stressed.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said it's hard to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
People-
there's time. I've heard sometimes families also mention how sometimes we don't want to communicate it for fear of being criticized, right? Or fear of others talking behind your back, right? Because you're sharing personal information. So it's important to talk to the right people so we are safe to unload our experiences without being judged.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, someone mentioned fear of judgment.
Yeah. Yeah, very prevalent as well. Somebody mentioned also how, you know, we're not taught to deal with stress, right? And so if we're not taught to deal with stress, how are we supposed to manage and share that message forward? Raising voices. Yeah, again, yelling because we don't know how else to communicate. Someone mentioned breaking the chains. Such a good point there. So there seems to be a very common theme here around either not talking about it, though some of you guys did note, you know, we talk about it as a family. So that's a really good, you know, coping mechanism, right? To be able to share and discuss, and in some families being able to process and validate and just getting that support from one another. But sometimes what we do find is that, you know, we don't talk about it, right? We either push it under the rug, we avoid it, we isolate, or it's more in the form of us acting out or yelling. Someone even mentioned that they binge eat. And so sometimes it can also manifest itself in some coping mechanisms that are not always healthy, right? And so very, very important considerations to have. And I hope that as we are reading out these messages on chat, you all get a sense, you know, of how universal a lot of these things are, right? How much we do have in common in how we manage stress, and sometimes our challenges in being able to cope with that. So I wanted to also ask you, since we're on this topic, is, you know, how is it helpful to reach out, right? So when you're feeling stressful, how do you reach out? How do you reach out for help during those times of distress? Why don't we go ahead and see what we're sharing in the chat, because this is the way we learn. We acquire new coping mechanisms.
Call a friend,
Mm-hmm.
text friends, family.
Yeah, reaching out.
FaceTime therapist, pray.
Yeah.
Texting others, hanging out with friends.
Vent to friends.
Chanting, going to church. Some people don't reach out. Working out, meditation, praying, writing, going for a walk.
Awesome.
I do want to acknowledge what was said on the chat about not having someone, right? What about if you don't have someone to check in with? So one of the tools that you can use would be journaling, right? There is power of getting the story out. When you start repeating the story several times, when you're writing it, you could also record yourself on your cell phone. There's the audio recording. You can record your story, record how you're feeling, And as we do that, the story starts to make sense as you're getting it out, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, and all the feelings. It is a way of letting it go without feeling like you are burdening someone. So as we continue to do that, when we journal or when we record ourselves, when we reach out, or like when we reach out to someone, it starts feeling, instead of feeling like a tsunami, it starts feeling like as a little puddle as we continue to journal or record ourselves.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Norma. So some additional, themes that I came up with in the chat here is, the fear of being criticized, right? Or judgment being passed, fear of others talking behind your back. So it's important to talk to the right people, right? So we are safe to unload our experiences without being judged. And so, as Norma said, sometimes we may find that we don't have someone, and utilizing these other methods to be able to get it out can be very helpful. If anything, it can provide us a sense of relief in that moment. So then we can kind of think about the situation a little bit more objectively, right? As opposed to being in a stressful state. But even if just having one person, as we often hear with many of our students, having that one trusted adult is the same for us as adults. Having that one trusted friend, that one trusted family that can hear us out can really make a difference in being able to manage the situation. We also sometimes hear from parents sharing with us that their kids are not talking to them. And in many of the parent workshops that I've had the opportunity to go out and conduct in schools, this is sometimes one of the concerns that we hear from parents. The kids don't talk to us, especially as they get a little older. So then when we talk to the kids, they share that they see their parents stressed, right? And that they don't want to burden them. So sometimes our own kids won't share with us their stressful situations because they're observing us and they're seeing that we're also in a heightened state of anxiety or worry or stress. And so they don't want to add on to that. So it really is a consideration how parents want to connect, but they want to protect each other too, right? It's almost like this tug of war that we engage in, and we want to find balance in that. And so as parents, it's hard to hear from our kids what is stressing them out because we feel that we need to save them and rescue them, right? That is our inclination for many of us to immediately try to resolve that situation. And so sometimes, our children may say to us, like, don't resolve it, just be there for me, just listen to me, I have something to share. Right. So these are just some additional components that, we saw and that we hope that you do know that there are different ways of managing stress. We are here to learn from each other and to just know that this is a universal phenomenon that many of us do go through and that you are not alone. Mm-hmm. So we will go on to, we'll go on to the next one.
Yes, I'll continue. So we're all seeing that it is universal. We all have a lot of things in common based on your answers, but at the same time, we're all very different from each other. And the way that one person or family handles stress may be different, and that's okay. We can't compare ourselves to other people, other families, how they address their stress. So you're the experts in your family, right? You know what works best for them and for you. And so go with that, whatever works for you. Because a lot of times we also feel that pressure. Well, it's working for someone, so I should also try that. It's whatever works for you, whatever makes you feel better and your family better. But one thing that is important is activating your support system that we talked about in some of your answers. It's so important in order to feel supported. And also it's a great outlet for us to express ourselves. So you don't bottle those feelings associated with it. So it's important that you try to reach out to people. Make that step to contact a family member, friends. I know sometimes it's hard, and like somebody said that it's hard for them to reach out, like Norma mentioned, journaling, just some way to let out those feelings to in some way, whether it's to a person or just on a piece of paper. It can be very, very supportive for sure.
Thank you, Hector. So we'll stay in this slide, Damien. That was such a wonderful introduction to what toxic stress is and how that is communicated in our families. So in this slide, we're going to learn that the common reactions to toxic stress. So there are ways that we all, both adults and children, parents, teachers, and students react to stressful life events in similar ways. So at this point, we're going to discuss the 16 common reactions to stressful life events. And you'll probably recognize experiencing many of these in the last 19 months. And we want to acknowledge this, that as we review these common reactions, it can bring up some feelings. And we encourage you to take care of yourself by taking deep breaths, or if you have water, or your cafecito or your tea, to take some sips as needed. So as we talk about them, the 16 common reactions that you see on your screen, I am going to ask you to keep a count. So keep a tally of these reactions that you've personally experienced in the last month. So I'm going to ask you to please try to keep a tally to count how many you have experienced in the last month. At the end, we will have a poll. We will take a poll. So keep the tally of the numbers that you have experienced in the last month. And remember, we want to highlight that these reactions are normal and expected, given everything that has been happening in the last year and a half. And we will also talk a little bit more about ways to cope and deal as we're experiencing some of these common reactions to toxic stress. So the 16 common reactions. So the 16 common reactions don't feel very overwhelming. We group them in 3 categories. So the first one is the category of the mind and the thoughts. The second one is body behaviors. And then the third one is feelings. So I am going to go over the first set. So the first one is thinking about it all the time. So it's thinking about that overwhelming situation that makes you very upset. It's thinking about that upsetting situation in a way that your body is trying to figure out what happened, right? So you may find yourself thinking about it all the time. It may be on the news all day, all the time. You're thinking about it all the time. It doesn't give your mind, your body a break to relax. It's like buzzing, right? And it's buzzing all day and it makes you feel anxious. So that is that first common reaction to toxic stress, is thinking about it all the time. So I want to remind you to keep a tally of the ones that you have been experiencing in the last month. The second one is avoiding thinking or talking about it. So it is natural to try to avoid situations that makes us upset or uncomfortable. So avoiding thinking or talking about a stressful situation makes us feel better, but just for a little while, because it's a temporary fix. But sooner or later, we have to deal with, right? We have to digest with that meal with the situation that happened. So that's avoiding thinking or talking about it. The third one, can't remember parts of what happened. And this is very, very common, and it could be very, very frustrating. The stressful event can be so scary that your memory may not work the same as it did before. With time, it may get easier or harder to remember. Number 4, trouble concentrating. I know that in the last year, you may have found having more difficulty with concentrating. And this has been very common for me. There has been times when I go to the room, to my bedroom, because I'm going to go grab something. And then I'm in there and I'm like thinking, okay, what am I here for? At that moment, I feel a little frustrated because I know that I was here for something, and then I can't remember. And then I'm like, okay, I just have to be gentle with myself. And then I turn around, go about my business, and then it comes back to me. And that could be very frustrating. And I noticed that has been more common for me. So Hector is now going to go over the body and behavior section.
So now we're going to focus on how your reactions might change in regards to your body and or your behaviors. So remember to keep a tally of what resonates with you. What are some of the things that hit for you because you were experiencing these things? So number 5 would be nightmares or trouble sleeping. So after something scary or upsetting happens, sometimes people tend to think about what happened to make sense of the situation or to digest it. Like Norma mentioned, kind of like you would digest your food, you break it down. So we do that also with scary, upsetting situations. So this may disrupt your sleep as your body's trying to figure out what to do with this big meal, right? This upsetting situation. And having nightmares is one way that the body reacts to try to digest and figure out what happened. Now, when we talk about trouble sleeping, we're talking about having a hard time sleeping, like waking up at night or not being able to fall asleep. It's a major change in your sleep patterns that doesn't make us feel good. Number 6, it's avoiding places, people, or things. So just like Norma mentioned, avoiding thinking and talking about the event, a lot of us also avoid people, things, or places that remind you of a scary, upsetting situation. And that can make you feel better in the short term. But the problem is if you keep avoiding places, people, or things, it may get in the way of your daily routines and things that are important in your life. So for example, if you get in a big car accident driving down a big street, you might feel uncomfortable walking by that street, driving by that street, because it reminds you of that scary situation, upsetting situation. But what happens if you need to take that street to get to work or to go to the market, or there's a restaurant you like around that street? So it could really affect your life by trying to avoid places, people, or things. Now, right now, we are doing a lot of that, but it's different, right? Because a lot of us are doing social distancing. We're avoiding places, people, and that's different for what we're explaining right now. But maybe a lot of us also don't want to reach out to others. Maybe we don't want to call out family and friends. Maybe we're avoiding and isolating ourselves. Now, these are examples of what I just explained. So being physically distanced during the pandemic is very different from isolating and withdrawing. Number 7 is easily startled when there's a loud noise. This is a way that your body reacts in preparation for something scary to happen again. Our body is very sophisticated and it has an internal alarm system. So when a very scary situation happens, it puts our bodies out of sync. So our body may think that we're about to re-experience that scary situation again. So maybe we're easily startled when there's a loud noise, being hypervigilant, always watching for something bad to happen. Somebody drops a book and it makes a loud noise, we jump very easily, and before we wouldn't react that way. Those are some examples. And number 8 is physical health problems and complaints. This is a very common one too. Stress affects our bodies, and our bodies keeps the score of all that it has experienced. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Whatever happens to us, our bodies are taking in all those experiences. So people who are under stress tend to get sick more often and have discomfort or pain in their bodies. So maybe you're beginning to have physical health problems. Maybe you're noticing that stress is making these worse. It could be dandruff, it could be diabetes, it could be just different things that are happening to your body. So the stress can actually make those conditions worse. And so what you're experiencing emotionally is being expressed in physical symptoms and problems. And that's what we mean by the body keeps the score. And now Rocio is going to share more about how our feelings are also affected.
Thank you, Hector. So as we review the tail end of this list, I hope you're kind of keeping track of some of the things that might pertain to you. There's a lot of feelings, as you can see in this slide. And last week, we talked about how we get to have all these different kinds of emotions and sometimes at the same time. So as we go through feeling scared just because. So this may be thinking and remembering the scary experience. And it may tense the body and make you feel scared just by thinking, right, and remembering it. There are times when you suddenly feel tense with similar sensations you felt when that scary experience happened. So you might be reliving it in that emotional state. We can feel scared, out of control. We can have all these reactions, and these are all normal reactions to a very difficult situation. And then the other one, feeling out of control. So this is when we have a hard time sleeping, perhaps, or we're always thinking about it, right? And we can't get it out of our heads. Maybe our body is feeling tense all the time. We might find ourselves with our shoulders up to our ears, and we can start to feel out of control. This means we're overloaded, just like a computer running on safe mode, right? And so we're just feeling very impacted, very overwhelmed, and out of control. The next one is being on guard to protect yourself or feeling like something bad is about to happen, right? So kind of feeling like, okay, it's like something's about to happen. You get that feeling. People say like in my gut, I might feel it too. So after something scary happens, it makes sense to be prepared in case another thing happens again, right? And it is a problem to spend all your time preparing and waiting for something scary to happen. It's like that alarm that never goes off. It just stays on constantly, and it doesn't give you time to rest. This takes away from the things you enjoy in your life because you're constantly sort of screening the landscape for any type of danger for that thing to happen again. The next one is feeling guilty. So people can feel guilty about what happened or about something we did or did not do, right? So sometimes we blame ourselves for things that we couldn't control. You may also feel guilty for upsetting other people. Guilty feelings can make it hard to talk about what happened. And when things are out of control and start affecting us, it is becoming hard to provide to our family. And then that makes us feel guilty too. So it sort of adds on to each other, right? And then we have feeling angry. And after something frightening happens, sometimes we may find ourselves feeling angry over that thing that happened. And at times we may feel angry all the time at everything and everyone, right? And so a lot of it, it's tied right to that situation that took place. And then shame, and shame is a big word to really dissect in a few minutes right now, but it's a very painful feeling of humiliation or distress. And sometimes people are ashamed about what happened to them or how they acted. Even though it's hard to believe, this gets better the more you talk about it, right? And shame is a very difficult thing to talk about. So definitely the more we air it out, perhaps the more comfortable we are in being able to discuss it. If you keep it a secret, it's hard for that shame to go away. And then feeling sadness, grief, and loss. And sometimes stressful events, including losing someone close to you or losing something that is important to you. This makes you feel sad and down. During the pandemic, we have been experiencing grief. We experienced a lot of grief. And as Hector noted, for many of us, we're probably experiencing the anniversary of deaths in our family and close friends and beloved people. And because there were just so many changes. And so because of all those changes, that grief and loss, can also come as a result of that. And every change, whether good or bad, feels like a loss. And we get to grieve it. And we get to mourn it. And then feeling bad about yourself. Sometimes all this stress can make you feel really bad about you. We may start to entertain thoughts like I'm a bad person or no one likes me. And this makes it hard to be friendly, right? To have fun around others if we're entertaining these ideas about ourselves. So this takes us out of that green zone that we've been talking about that we really want to stay in as much as possible. It takes us out of our ability to be our best selves. So that gives us all our 16 reactions to stress. And now we're going to go to our next slide and do a poll. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Rocio. We're now going to do a poll. So when we reviewed the 16 common reactions to toxic stress, we asked you to keep a tally of the common reactions that you have experienced in the last month. If you lost count, that is okay. It's not a problem. You can estimate how many you think you have experienced in the last month. So let's activate the poll, Damien. Poll number 1. So you should see this pop up on your screen. And I want to remind all of you that the poll is completely anonymous and no personal information is collected. This is just for informational purposes only. And it is one of the things that I have found as we have done this parent workshops, you know, the reactions from parents have been, it's wow, like I'm not alone. And I do want to highlight that there's definitely others who are experiencing the same as you. So let's see. So let's bring up poll number 1, please. So this is the one that just popped up right now. It's poll number 2. Can we bring poll number 1 up? Let me see. Okay, there you go. So we're going to give you a minute. Oh, it just came down. Do you see it? I don't see it anymore. So can we bring the poll up one more time? Yes, it went up from my end and it disappeared. Okay, there you go. So how many common reactions to toxic stress have you experienced in the last month? ¿Cuántas reacciones comunes al estrés tóxico ha tenido en el último mes? So we have grouped them. So if you have experienced 0 to 2, please select that choice. We have 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 11, and then 12 plus. Damien, how many parents have responded? What's the percentage?
Let's see, we have a total of 145 so far.
Okay, so we have 566 participants. Should we wait a few more?
It's still going. We're up to 157 in county. Slowing down now. 160, 161. Looks like we paused at 164.
Okay, okay. So that's fine. I think that's enough participants to give us a sample of, can we see the response? Okay, so thank you for participating in the poll. For those of you that did. And one of the things that before I start looking into the numbers a little deeply, just overall, this on your screen highlights, you know, the idea that, and as you could see that you're not alone. If you have been feeling, most of them 12 plus, you see that 17%, that at least 20 other individuals in this space are also experiencing most of them. And the same thing for 3 to 5. So about 28% of you are feeling 3 to 5 common reactions. So anything that it's popping up in the chat, I can't see it. Anything that is popping on this chat that is related to this activity?
Just given the numbers, I guess some
Yes.
individuals were not able to access the poll, so they're putting their numbers in the chat.
Okay, okay, thank you for that. So one of the things that I want to highlight from this is that you're not alone. As you could see, the numbers are all over the place. There is at least one other person that is experiencing what you are experiencing. And one of the things that I do want to highlight with this is that we all have an inner child, right? I know that when I brought my son home, I was really stressed. Like I needed to keep him alive. I needed to change him. I needed to make sure that he was breathing. I would put my finger under his nose to make sure that he was breathing. I had to feed him. I needed to keep that baby alive, right? So I even changed my work schedule. I stopped working for the 8 weeks. My life pretty much evolved around him and making sure that he was taken care of. So I am sharing this to say that all of us, it doesn't matter how old we are, we need to make sure that the baby inside of us, our inner child, gets to eat regularly nutritious food, gets to sleep, rest. We also need playtime, cuddle time, right? So we all have that inner child that we need to start paying attention to and to take care of and to keep alive, right? Especially during these stressful times. So not just because we are adults, it means that we get to ignore our inner child. So our inner child is so, so important in all of us, especially as we support our children, our grandchildren, and others. So let's not forget, as we see on the screen, that all of us in this space is experiencing a common reaction to toxic stress. And this is a reminder that we shouldn't forget to take care of our inner child. Next. So we have poll number 2. Can we activate that? So in the second question, we're going to ask you to please tell us which of the following common reactions has bothered you the most in the last month. I don't see the poll.
Yeah, that's the next slide.
Yes, this is the next slide.
Okay.
There you go. So if we could activate the poll, that would be wonderful.
I reactivated.
There you go. So the common reactions that have bothered you in the last month. ¿Cuáles de estas siguientes reacciones comunes le han molestado más este último mes? So the first one is nightmares or trouble sleeping, pesadillas o problemas para dormir, thinking about it all the time, pensando en eso todo el tiempo, feeling out of control, sentirse fuera de control, feeling angry, shame, sadness, sentirse enojado, vergüenza, triste. As some of you mentioned in the chat, as Rocio and Hector were talking about the common reactions, you were mentioning how some of these factors have impacted your physical health, right? So having physical health problems, physical complaints, problemas de salud física y quejas. What's the percentage, Damien, that participants have completed the poll?
So we're at about 25%.
Okay. So it appears that there's some challenges with completing the poll, and that's okay. So let's close it. I think that would give us a good sample and see where most of the parents are. So again, just looking at this is very telling, right? And we actually picked, as you notice, we have the 16 common reactions, and we only picked the most common 5 from all those 16, which is the nightmares and thinking about it and that feeling of being out of control, feeling anger, and having those physical health complaints. So what I could see here is that 30% out of the 25% of you that completed the poll are experiencing having a hard time because you're thinking about it, right? Está pensando en eso todo el tiempo. You're thinking about that situation all the time. What are parents sharing in the chat? Thank you, Damien. We could close the poll.
Somebody mentioned an interesting point that, you know, it's not just one stress that I'm dealing with, whether it's my children, but it's one thing on top of the other. And that for sure happens with a lot of us. That's part of the toxic stress, that it's not just one situation, one incident. It could be that we're struggling with our children, and then maybe we're struggling with finding a job, and then maybe there's something going on with our parents. You know, there's a lot of things that, a lot of levels sometimes of stress, and that's what causes a lot of the toxic stress. So definitely acknowledging that it's not just one thing that happens to us, right? Stress can be one thing on top of the other.
Right, right. Thank you, Hector, for acknowledging that in the chat. One thing, you know, as we did this poll, part of doing this poll, it's also to reflect, right, on what we are noticing, right, and giving those feelings, and noticing those feelings, and noticing those things that are making us uncomfortable, even though that they're not pleasant. So we want to make sure that at least in this space, you have that space to honor those experiences and feelings, even though they may not necessarily be the most comfortable, because that's part of the first step to doing something about it, right? Is to acknowledge, to acknowledge that we are experiencing these common reactions, acknowledging, you know, the ache on our shoulder, acknowledging that our back is feeling a little tight, paying attention to how sleep deprived, you know, we have been maybe this week, and figuring out what can we do to address that. How can we get support with that? Anything else that you would like to add, Rocio and Hector, based on what is popping up in the chat?
I think, as Hector mentioned earlier, people experiencing all of the characteristics that are noted here. Somebody mentioned having trouble sleeping. Yeah, the continuous pain in the body, thinking about things all the time.
Yeah, somebody mentioned hair loss too. So those type of physical symptoms too.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. So as you mentioned, Hector, you mentioned something about dandruff. So when we are having some challenges in our life, just, you know, as we're adding on the weight of additional layers that become heavy and add to our load, it just makes what we were experiencing even worse. So if you, to start with, we're having problems with dandruff, just having added levels of stress makes it even worse. One thing that I do want to mention is that we sometimes lead with our head at times, and not with our heart. And I want to remind myself, and that's when I have to remind myself that there are no shortcuts to feelings, and I have to give myself the permission to experiencing them and to feel them and to embrace them. That way I can understand, even though it may be so uncomfortable. And I have to remind myself that feelings are like clouds, that they will pass, and that I just have to sit with the feelings until it does pass. And I have to remind myself that I have to trust that they will pass. So now we're gonna take a few minutes to go to the next slide, and Hector is going to share with us how to get to green.
Yes, and we want to acknowledge too that it's a very heavy subject, and sometimes just even talking about our stress makes us even more stressed out. And so we want to make sure that you go before the end of the meeting with some tools about how you can feel better about it. So we talked about last week how we have a feeling thermometer, and that we always want to make our goal to get to green at the bottom of the feeling thermometer. And so when you're feeling whatever reactions you shared today, right now, whether you felt anger, shame, sadness, whether your stomach hurts, physical symptoms, whatever you reported on these polls that we just did, try to think about what are some things that we can do to get in the green zone. Because if you remember from last week, when we're in the green zone, that's when we feel our best selves. That's when we can think clearly. We can enjoy the moment we're in. We feel a lot more balanced. We feel very comfortable in our own skin. So start thinking about that and share in the chat. What are some things that help you get to the green zone?
Mm.
And we'll just try to read some of the answers that you're putting. So people are saying music.
Music.
Whether it's performing music or playing music.
Walking, dancing, coloring, going to the park, yoga, going to Disneyland, exercising, meditating, having a good cry, singing, breathing, singing karaoke, praying, hiking, working out, doing more of what you love it. Taking the time to intentionally breathe, learning something new, listening to music and singing.
I do want to highlight that if you're reading something on the chat that you've always wanted to try, and that someone is sharing in the chat that that's what they're doing to get them to the green zone, to that ideal zone, I encourage you to give it a try. Be brave and give it a try.
So like some people are saying yoga, that's one of the things that a lot of us maybe have not done. Why not try it out? There's a lot, I know we talked about, several of you mentioned exercising, and you know that releases endorphins, right? Those chemicals in our body that makes us feel better. So there's a lot of things that maybe we haven't tried, and we're getting some good ideas on from other people, other parents.
Yeah, and not everything that it's on the chat works for everyone. We're all different. And you get to decide what works for you. And you get to decide once you give it a try and you see if it works for you or not.
Yeah, we definitely have to figure out our own treatment plan. Like we said earlier, what helps some of us will not help others. So maybe for you, you enjoy watching Netflix and your favorite shows, and for other people say, oh no, I want to go out and do stuff, I want to walk around. Some of you might say, well, I really like listening to music. So whatever works for one person might not work for the other. So we have to come up with our own treatment plan and whatever works for us.
Mm-hmm. So someone mentioned, that's great, Hector, someone mentioned in the chat starting an exercise class for that we should start an exercise class for support. But I challenge you for you to start an exercise class for support at your own school community. That way you get to know the other parents at your school community and be able to connect with each other and be able to, at the same time, do an activity that it's so pleasant, and at the same time, you'll be able to get to know each other. That's a great idea.
And maybe we can focus too on one of the topics that we shared as part of the symptoms, not being able to go to sleep. That's one thing that I think a lot of us might have interesting answers. If you have trouble going to sleep, what usually helps you? I know for some people, they say, why I make sure that I have dark curtains and my room is completely dark. Some of us say, well, I like to drink tea, that really calms me down. Some people like listening to soft music or, you know, meditation, you know, someone should kind of what we did last week. So maybe that's something you can share too in the chat, and we'll read out some of your answers so that way other people get ideas. What do you do if you want to go to sleep?
Someone mentioned a warm bath, listening to music, meditating, pray, drink tea, journaling, reading the Bible, having a nice bubble bath.
Aromatherapy, hot showers.
Té de siete azares, yoga, leche con manzanilla, guided meditation, chanting, prayer, just to have a few minutes to relax. Ooh, I like that weighted blanket. Yes, my San Marcos blanket. That reminds me of the San Marcos blanket. Getting a massage.
Jacuzzi.
Great. There's some great responses there, and I'm getting some ideas myself. Hugs. Somebody mentioned that helps.
Self hugs.
Reading. Running, maybe that helps. Yeah. So we're gonna focus on another activity that we hope can help you also to relax. Last week we did guided imagery. If you remember, we visited the beach and we were closing our eyes and imagining we were there. So that's called guided imagery. But this week, Norma's gonna share another technique that's gonna help us also try to get to the green.
Sounds good. Thank you, Hector. So I'm gonna remove my headphones. I'm gonna see if I can play background music. Let me see.
And we'll go on to the next slide too. I'm sorry, Damien.
Oh yes, next slide. Can you hear the background music?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to thank all of you for sharing, and I see that you continue to share in the chat. We have shared wonderful ideas on the chat on what works for you, and things that you could do that would help you get in the green zone, that zone where you feel your best self. So right now, what we're going to do, we're going to practice a progressive muscle relaxation activity. And this is another tool that can help you relax your mind and your body. And we want to remind you that at times our bodies may react when we are calm, when we quiet our minds. And as some of you shared last week, if this were to happen today, we want to reassure you that it is a total normal bodily response. When we relax, we are signaling our brain that we are safe and that we can discharge whatever we are bottling. So I want to invite you to join us in this progressive muscle relaxation. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to raise the music. So stress makes our bodies tense, and feeling nervous or upset makes it even worse. But there are ways to relax your body that will make you feel calmer. And today, we're going to teach you one way to do that through the progressive muscle relaxation. So I'd like you to start by thinking of some place that makes you really, really, really comfortable, like your bed or the bathtub, as some of you mentioned on the chat, or the couch. Imagine that you're lying down there or sitting comfortably. Take a breath in, wait for 3 to 4 seconds. So breathe in and out. In and out. One more time, breathe in and out. Try to keep breathing this way as we continue, and keep thinking about your most comfortable spot. Now, I'd like you to make a fist and squeeze it really, really tight. You can open your eyes and see how I'm doing it if you're not sure how. Hold it. Relax it completely and shake it out. Let's do it again. Make a fist. Now relax it completely. Can you feel the difference between how it was when it was tight and now how it feels that it's relaxed? So let's do the same thing for the rest of your arms. So tighten up your whole arm like if you're making a muscle. Hold it. Now relax it completely. Do it again. So tighten it. Now relax. So now let's move to your shoulders. So bring your shoulders up to your ears and tighten them. Hold it. Now relax. Let's do that again. So bring your shoulders way up near your ears. Hold it. Now relax it completely. Oh, this feels so good. Make sure your hands, your arms, and your shoulders are completely relaxed. Breathe in. And out. One more time. Breathe in. And out. So then now let's work on your face. So scrunch up your face as tight as you can. Close your eyes tight. Scrunch up your mouth and hold it. So you can see on the screen how I'm doing that. And relax. So let's do that again. And relax. So keep breathing like we did before, in and out. Breathe in and out. One more time. Breathe in and out. So next comes your body. So arch your back as much as you can and put your shoulders way back, the way that I'm doing it. Now relax. Then now lean forward onto your knees and curl your back the other way and tighten up your stomach as much as you can and hold it. Now relax it. Oh, that felt good. So let's do that one more time. Hold it. Relax it. So sit up and keep breathing in and out. One more time. So let's work on your legs and feet. So straighten your legs up in the air in front of you and bring your toes as close to your face as you can. And tighten your bottom too. Hold it. Relax. Oh, that was a good stretch. Let's do that again. Hold it. Now relax. Now point your toes as far as you can away from your face and again tighten your leg muscles. Hold it. Now relax. Let's do that one more time. So hold it. Relax. So let's breathe in and out. One more time. So think about all the parts of your body and relax any part that is tight right now. Let all the tension go out of your body. Breathe in and out. One more time. Breathe in and out. If you kept your eyes closed, now begin to open your eyes. Sit back if you were on the floor. And I invite you to be part of the group again. Please share in the chat. How did that feel? How did your body feel? Great. The same.
Very relaxing. Super relaxed. Wow, that was amazing. A lot of relaxation. Renewed.
Feeling lighter, calming, good on the neck. Very, very good. Super good. Smooth, relaxing. Release some tension.
Every time I do this, I feel like I've lost a pound. I feel light. My body feels light.
And I want to acknowledge somebody said the same. And like we said earlier, maybe this is not something for you. There's so many other things you can try to get into green.
Yes, yes, yes. So that's wonderful. So let's go to the next slide. We have 6 more minutes left. So I know some of you were asking about, so where do I find the recording for today's workshop? Where do I find the recording from last week? And where do I find this relaxation activities and other guided imagery and parenting videos? So this is where you'll be able to find it. We have a Resilient Families YouTube channel that is available to all of you. We have dropped the link in the chat, and we will have the link again at the end of this workshop with the QR code. That way you can aim your camera app from your cell phone and you can subscribe. Next, Lorena is going to give us some information about community resources.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, that was amazing. Thank you, Norma, for leading us in that relaxation. It's free and it's accessible to us anytime. Our breath is definitely a resource. So thank you. I want to remind us also that during a crisis, it'll be difficult for us to concentrate, do things, and things would just require more mental effort from us. So it's important for us to reach out to a trusted family member, a friend. Anyone can be a resource for us. And remember, it's a sign of strength, and it does take a village to raise each one of us, right? As we're raising ourselves and we're raising families. So a community resource we want to highlight for you is that there is that YouTube, but also know that there are resources that are available for us. Again, when we're doing our best, that's awesome, but we also know that there are ways that we might need we might have basic needs, and we might have other needs in our home. So I want to remind you, you're not alone, and we truly, truly are in this together. So some resources for you to share, for you to know on the next slide. You'll see some resources through our Student Health and Human Services. You'll also see resources that you might be able to access through our hotline. So you'll see some hotlines that are available to you as parents, students as well. They're used by our school staff. Please, again, reach out for help. You are not alone. We are in this together. In the next slide, there's a QR code where we really want to hear from you. We plan these workshops thinking about you, what your needs might be. So please use this QR code to give us your feedback. Use the link. It's also in the chat, but it's a parent caregiver satisfaction survey. Fill it out. It's very short, but it allows us to know what you think and how we can improve these stress management and emotional well-being series. Again, you can name your phone and your camera, and this will pop up for you to be able to fill that survey, because we value your feedback. We know that on a day like today, some of us are acknowledging our loved ones that are not with us today. We know that this is a hard season for all of us, but I do hope that you found community here with us. We cannot wait to see you again next week. And do fill out this feedback form, because it allows us to plan. We've heard you. Some folks want some sessions later in the day. We are planning on that for the next coming weeks. But with that, I want you to just with me, let's thank our presenters. Round of applause to all of you for sharing your knowledge and your expertise with us this evening. And thank you to all the team that is involved in holding these workshops. So thank you all. Please enjoy your evenings, and thank you for spending the time with us and allowing us into your space this evening. So thank you all. And with that, we say good night, buenas noches, inch beses, and wishing you well, all of you. And we can't wait to see you again. Thank you for your sweet and kind comments on the chat. We do receive those, and we are so excited to see you again next week. We'll be sending out those reminders. Thank you all. Thank you. We'll stay on a couple more minutes just so you have a chance to complete the survey, the parent satisfaction survey. Again, back to our goal with us is, for coming here is to support you and to know that you are raising amazing students and youth, and we are partners in this work. So thank you all. Thank you. Yes, the mental health hotline is one you can access. And we can go move the slide one back so folks can see that hotline. It is crisis team members that are responding to that line, and just experts that are there to support you, community service services or resources you might need. We are going to post things on the Student Health and Human Services website. You'll also find some other resources that you might find helpful in terms of exercise. Someone mentioned exercise. I know that our wellness programs have put together some yoga classes. So there are definitely resources. And we just thank you for being part of this community. And thank you. So today's workshop, some questions, Norma, if you might see on the chat about the title of the series. I'm not able to read all of the.
I didn't catch that, but I know that someone was mentioned that, the title of the series is workshop number 2.
Yes.
Stress management, or
Yes.
when life throws lemons at you. Something about, yes, that's the title.
Thank you, Norma. The presenters, you can put Norma, Rocio, and Hector. And yes, thank you for those nice comments that that you're showing gratitude, and we share that gratitude right back to you on a Gratitude Tuesday like today. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, when life gives you lemons. Thank you. Yes, so you will be able to access the recording for this parent workshop in the Resilient Families YouTube channel. So on there, you will have access at this time for workshop number 1. It's already uploaded and available. So I am hoping that in the next day or 2, we would be able to upload this recording.
Thank you, Norma. Thank you. Thank you to everyone on the team who makes this possible. We really appreciate our translation unit for making it available to our families in different languages, and American Sign Language translators. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. We do appreciate it, and we appreciate each one of you. Thank you all. The slide, if you can move it forward one more time so that folks can see the QR code. And with that, we'll stay on another minute. And we just want to say thank you. Thank you. Yes, we are happy to offer this in Spanish, Armenian, and American Sign Language. Yes, thank you. Yes.
And this parent caregiver satisfaction survey, it's available in different languages. On the top left, you can select English, and when you do so, the list of other languages will pop up, and you have the option of completing this in English and Spanish, Chinese, I believe Armenian. There's a list of languages. The QR code on the right, it is for you to access the Resilient Families YouTube channel. There you would be able to find the recording for workshop number 1, the workshop from last week. We encourage all of you to subscribe. As you subscribe, when we upload this recording for today's workshop series, you will get a notification of a new video that has been available. So we encourage all of you to subscribe.
Thank you. So as you aim your phone on the QR code, you'll get a notice that pops up at the top. If you click that, it'll send you straight to the survey. Thank you.
And if you are on your cell phone, we are dropping the links in the chat for the parent caregiver satisfaction survey. We do want to encourage you to complete it. We do read them. We do try to make the changes and adapt the changes based on your feedback for the following week. I know that someone mentioned last week about having our Armenian language interpretation, and we were able to make it happen for this week. So your feedback, it's definitely read, and we appreciate it in making this workshop series better for all of you.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Again, thank you for your kind comments. We received them. It is our pleasure to be here with you this evening, and we wish you a wonderful, wonderful rest of the night. And thank you all. With that, we say goodbye and we end the recording. Thank you all.